Brothers and sisters, we have just finished 3 seasons. The first was about the Catholic family. The second was about the woman with Mary as the model. And the third, it is all about Jesus Christ, the Son of God, the obedient Son of Mary and Joseph, and yet the Apostle of the Father. We've been doing this because of the coming 500th anniversary of the gift of our Catholic faith. We would like to appreciate, value the faith that we received, and look at the paradigm of the Holy Family of Nazareth. We reflected on how every Catholic, whether as a family or as individuals, woman or man, but also as child, uh, should make that Catholic faith living, alive. And for this, we have asked for life testimonies. So now we're moving towards the fourth season. And the fourth season is given to the man. And that is, the model is, of course, Saint Joseph.
Happy those who do not follow the counsel of the wicked, nor go the way of sinners, nor sit in company with scoffers. Rather, the law of the Lord is their joy. God's law they study day and night. They are like a tree planted near streams of water that yields its fruit in season. Its leaves never wither. Whatever they do prospers. But not the wicked. They are like the shaft driven by the wind. Therefore, the wicked will not survive judgment, nor will sinners in the assembly of the just. The Lord watches over the way of the just, but the way of the wicked leads to ruin.
We've just heard or read with the reader the first psalm of the book of Psalms, a song attributed to David the king, attesting of the experience of the upright man who did his best to follow the way of the Lord. His experience is contrasted with the one who did not take the path of obeying God's precepts. So I thought that it would be good to visualize this psalm. Look at these two paths, one that goes to the left and the other that goes to the right. It seems that the one going to the left has been mown downtrodden, and the right, there were fewer people. Because of this, I remember what Robert Frost said about the road not taken. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled, and that has made all the difference. I think we can actually look into this poetry by an American and apply it to what we have just read or heard in Psalm 1. There are two different forms of life, and one could really be so different from the other. They say the truth is found in the end. It's quite clear from the development of someone that those who are wicked in their ways, one way, is simply extinguished from the face of the earth. All their effort, all their sweat become futile because the end of their wrong choices, the wrong path, wicked endeavors come up to nothing compared to chaff that have no value. In fact, the wind scatters them away, and what remains is nothing, as in nada. Instead, the other way, the labors of the just, which is not always taken, brings productive gain. These are compared to the evergreens that are placed beside river or living waters. Actually, evergreens are very rare in the desert region of Judea in Israel today, in Palestine, in the time of the psalmist King David, because it is it is very, very rare to find running water. But where there is running water, you could find an oasis. There is life when there is running water. When you consider this oasis, it is because of this magical, surprising, I would say, wondrous waterfall in the midst of the desert that was coming from the valley of Galilee. And you can imagine why such lush of life comes into this place called the oasis of Engedi. Now, today's society can be similarly mixed with the lawful and the unlawful, or the lawless. And sometimes the lawless have their heyday in different forms, whether wealth wise, pleasure wise, and here, regarding the RH bill that became law. If you look at the representation of this RH bill at about 8 or 7 years ago, you have the contraceptive bill and this color violet, and it fought for the right of the woman to even, we could call it, have a choice whether she would get pregnant or not. And therefore, contraception was the word. Whereas they think that the lawful are naive because in keeping God's laws and following their consciences, they seem to lose the opportunities of gold, glory, and greatness. In this fight between pro life and pro choice, the one who won, as it says here, panalo ang RH. And you could see who represents it, even a kind of leftist society. And it seems that winning this is the path that will lead to a better life, to a development of the Filipino country. But you know very well, the end result, when preferred by one who takes a wrong stance, is simply death. But those with a clear conscience and clean conscience before the judgment seat of God is like said to be Saint Joseph, who, because of his choice for Mary and the baby in her womb at that time, he became now a patron of the happy death. Now, there are men and women of a similar caliber as that of Joseph. They are those who fight for the laws of God. They are those who think that the advocacy that they are holding on to is God's advocacy. And for this reason, I was able to search and find out there is a person I could ask to testify about what he underwent as a lawyer, in what way he was prepared by God, but in the end, he even lawyered for the pro life group, not only before the Congress, he went up to the Supreme Court. That he would want that this reflection of the people of God and the nation as such would somehow align itself with the ways of the Lord. The just man, we still have them in our society. So now let's take time and listen to this lawyer that defended life starting from the womb.
I have come to realize that life is not an empty, random journey. It has a beginning, it has an end. And between these two finite points is the time that defines the kind of life we had lived. Was it a life well spent, or one weighed down by frustrations and regrets for leaving certain things undone? For us Catholics, we believe that God has a plan for us. In Jeremiah 29, verse 11, the Lord declares, "For I know well the plans I have in mind for you, plans for your welfare, not for woe." My name is Chito Liban. I am a lawyer, a father to 5 children, and a husband to a wife who was my batchmate in law school. I became a lawyer not by intention, but by some strange confluence of events whose meaning had escaped me at that time. I was just aiming for a master's degree in business at the UP. But for some unexplained reason, the lady at the registrar's office refused to give me an application for admission. Dejected, I walked out of the School of Business, and after aimlessly taking a few steps, had found myself in front of the College of Law. Instinctively, I went up the office of the college secretary and inquired about the admission process. Without fanfare or reluctance, an amiable lady in the office promptly handed me an application to take the entrance exam. I paid the fee and went off my way. I took the exam as scheduled, but the prospect of passing did not cross my mind. After all, the questions were incredibly tough. Imagine my surprise when, weeks later, I received a letter from the Dean of the College of Law, congratulating me for making it. Thinking that the notice might have been a mistake, I went to UP to check if I had indeed passed. A notice posted on the college board confirmed the good news. Now, my excitement surged, but not for long. I was told that passing the exam is just half of the requirement. The other is to pass a panel interview, where only half of the 200 successful examinees will get the nod for admission. The fear of rejection again seeped in, leaving me wondering whether my previous efforts were just a waste of time. Just the same, I sat through the panel interview, conducted by some 10 people, most of whom were law professors. From the nature of the questions and the manner they were asked, one could easily mistake the interview for a police interrogation. When it was done, I hurriedly left the place, convinced that I had bungled it. But another pleasant surprise happened. Another letter from the dean arrived, informing me that I had passed the interview and could now enroll. The experience was bittersweet. I was happy I had made it, but sad that I could not enroll because my elder brother, with whom I was living and who had been supporting me financially, could not afford to produce the money needed for the matriculation fee. The period for regular employment went by without me having any chance to enroll. My last opportunity was during the grace period of 1 week, which was given to late enrollees. But those days also rolled by quickly without any sign of hope. On the last day of the grace period, however, I received a call from my brother telling me to go immediately to his office in Manila. Somehow, he was able to produce the money. After getting the money from my brother, I hurriedly left for UP, reaching the place at around 2 p.m. I only had 3 hours to complete the tedious enrollment process, failing which my enrollment would be deferred for next semester. To do this, I had to go to 3 separate buildings, fill up numerous documents, and undergo a medical examination at the university clinic. Yet, just a few moments before 5 p.m., I had my class cards firmly in my hands. Looking back at the experience, I am convinced that it would not have been possible without divine intervention. After graduating from the College of Law, I was hired by one of the largest and most prestigious law firms in the country. I rose from the ranks, eventually becoming a senior partner and a member of the firm's executive committee. When that happened, I thought that was my purpose in life, to be the best lawyer that I could be and to render quality services to my clients. I was happy and contented in pursuing this goal. Then something happened. Multiple bills on reproductive health were simultaneously filed in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. The bills would aggressively mandate and promote the massive distribution of artificial contraceptives and other reproductive health devices. Worse, they would compel people to promote, propagate, and distribute these harmful products and services under threat of imprisonment. Medical health workers, public personnel, private citizens, and even clerics who disobeyed or opposed the mandate could end up in jail. Now, instantaneously, pro-life groups pushed back, arguing that the passage of a reproductive health law is a slippery slope that would lead to the legalization of abortion and the destruction of the family. Catholic communities joined the chorus of protests, claiming that the bills would violate their free exercise of religion, since their faith forbids artificial contraception. As I was then already an active member of a pro-life Catholic community, I found myself directly involved in the fight against the bills. I attended the deliberations, debates, and hearings in Congress, and participated in numerous demonstrations and rallies. Despite the gallant stand of the pro-life communities, however, the Senate and the House of the Representatives eventually passed a consolidated RH bill. On December 21, 2012, President Benigno Aquino III signed the RH law, now known as Republic Act No. 10354. Wasting no time, 13 pro-life groups promptly filed separate cases before the Supreme Court, assailing the constitutionality of the RH law. With so many petitioners against the RH law, the court required the petitioners to choose only 2 from among their lawyers who will argue the cases in person before the court. Counsels for the petitioners met and deliberated. Although I was present at the meeting, I purposely refrained from participating in the discussions, dodging the possibility of me being selected. Soon enough, the verdict was announced. A distinguished lady lawyer and I would represent the petitioners during the oral arguments. I was assigned to argue against the validity of the penal provisions that threatened imprisonment of violators of the law, the provision on sex education, and other constitutional issues on free speech, equal protection of laws, privacy, and freedom of religion. The lady lawyer would tackle the right to life and health issues. When my name was called, It sent shivers down my spine. After all, I had never practiced constitutional law and had zero experience arguing before all 15 justices of the Supreme Court in person. I feared I would let the petitioners, the church, and all pro-lifers down. And so I prayed. I asked God to give me the confidence and the boldness to face this challenge. I beseeched Him to accompany me during the long and intense preparation for the oral arguments. And you know what? He answered me in no unclear terms. He told me it was He who had altered events that led to me becoming a lawyer, that it was He who had enabled me to get a near-perfect score in constitutional law during the bar exams, that it was He who had chosen me for the oral arguments, and that it was He who would now prepare me for the battle ahead. The best was when God led me to the passage in Matthew chapter 10, verses 19 to 20, which state, "Do not worry about how you are to speak or what you are to say. You will be given at that moment of what you are to say. For it will not be you who will speak, but the Spirit of your Father speaking through you." On July 27, 2013, I appeared and argued against the RH law before the Supreme Court. For nearly 6 hours, I stood before the 15 justices, answering a barrage of questions from each of them. During those critical moments when everything hung in the balance, I could feel God's presence assuring me that He was in control and asking me to trust Him, as Saint Joseph had done when told about the condition of the Virgin Mary. When the oral arguments were over, a sense of peace and satisfaction enveloped me, something I had never felt before. Eventually, the decision of the Supreme Court was released. Contrary to media reports, it was the pro-life groups that had won the case because all the penal and coercive provisions have been removed from the RH law for being unconstitutional. What was left was a toothless law whose enforcement relies solely on voluntary action. Moreover, the decision upheld religious freedom, spousal privacy, parental rights, free speech, and equal protection. It also affirmed the pro-life's view that conception begins at fertilization. One mission accomplished, one purpose served. More are yet to come, as the duty to defend our faith and our church never ends. This is my purpose. This is my calling. Praise be to God. Thank you for your time.